Greetings and salutations. My name is Michael Schwahn and welcome to the channel. So we are going to be talking about Resident Evil 7 Biohazard today. And the reason for that is that over on our Twitch channel where we stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, we recently hit one of our goals to have a certain number of ongoing subscribers. And the reward for that goal was a community-voted full playthrough stream of a game. So we put 4 games up that were all of a time frame of which we felt we could complete in a single stream, of which one of which was Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which ended up winning by more than twice the votes of any other game. So we sat down on Sunday, May 23rd for 13 hours and played all the way through from beginning to end Resident Evil 7. We did play one piece of DLC, which that was the Not a Hero DLC where you play as Chris Redfield, and it's kind of like the prologue almost to the game. We did not play any of the other DLC. I went through the DLC while we were on stream and read through all of it, and most of it didn't seem really relevant to the game. Like, some of it was extras, some of it was like extra Resident Evil style puzzle type stuff. There was a little bit of extra stuff regarding the Baker family, but none of it felt necessary. Not a Hero did feel like it might have been necessary because it was, like I said, that kind of like prologue of what happened to a couple loose ends at the end of the game. So we've played through the whole game, and now we're going to talk about how we felt about the game, including a semi-formal review. And I'm going to break this review into 4 sections into terms of how I feel a game should be rated and where the weight of that game's rating comes from. And it comes into 4 sections, which is visuals, and that's everything you see, everything you interact with. There's going to be everything from texture detail to character and monster design, etc. Everything you see. Then we have audio, which is everything you hear, and this is everything from voiceovers to sound design to the Foley, everything. Anything that goes into your ears is what goes into audio. And then we have story. Not all games have a story, but most games have a world, and that's where I'm kind of putting in that story bubble. The world design, the world creation, the setup, the premise, the foundation of what is happening and why all fits into that story bracket. And each of those first 3 brackets are worth 2 points. 2 points for visuals, 2 points for audio, 2 points for story, which is 6 points. The remaining 4 points for the full 10 out of 10, the remaining 4 points is the gameplay, because that's why we play video games. We play video games because they're games, they're interactive media. If the gameplay sucks, those other 3 categories can't make up for it. Whereas a really good game in terms of its gameplay can make up for 1, 2, and sometimes even all 3 of those first 3 categories within reason. Normally you can get away with ignoring 1 or 2, not quite all 3, but that's why. So gameplay is worth 4 points, visuals 2, audio 2, story 2. And we're going to go through them in the order that we just kind of introduced them. So when it comes to Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, its visual design, unfortunately, because of technical limitations within the stream, we did have to turn the textures down a little bit so that it wouldn't overload my computer. But it looked good even when we turned it down, although there was a couple of spots where, because we had the texture quality turned down, some of the things that we needed to interact with were illegible. Because, like, there's one spot where you need to tell what time it is to solve a puzzle regarding time, and you need to go look at the other clocks in the house. The textures were to the clock textures, you couldn't tell what time it was. It made that puzzle real interesting until we found a clock that had loaded a little bit better. And there was one of your shop, essentially, are these little bird cages that you put coins into. And they say on the cage how many coins you need to buy the thing that is in the cage, if you can read it. Now, maybe I just can't read. I mean, at a certain point, I was like, staring at screen so long, nonstop, lights. But there was definitely a couple of points that, because the textures were lower, I couldn't read. I'm not going to hold that against the game. In terms of just like the general visual design, the only real complaint that I would have is that, and they even provide a reason for this within the story, but all of the enemies, all of them, except for the Baker family when they've not turned into this, are all blob monsters. all of them. There's a blob monster that stands up. There's a blob monster that stands up with a blob on its arm. There's a blob monster that crawls around on all fours. There's a blob monster that is a little bit fatter of a blob monster that goes boom boom. All of the monsters are all blob monsters. And even the bosses, like when you get to the bosses and they turn into like the Resident Evil boss form, they're still kind of blobby. They're still kind of big and bulbous and grotesque. And there is an explanation for it in terms of like the mold that is being used to within bio research and stuff like that. Like the enemies you find out later are literally called the molded because they have been created through a fungus that has overtaken their body and infested their mind, and then it's a double play on words of the mold that molded them into what they are and all this stuff. So it does have a in-game explanation, but that doesn't change that the game's enemies all felt and looked the same. And there's literally only like 6, but I'll talk more about that in gameplay. Otherwise, everything looked fine. I mean, it was gross. It was gross at times. It was gross. 2 out of 2 points for visual. Audio design. And I'm going to couple one thing with audio design with visual design, and that is voiceover. Now, the voice acting itself and the voiceover work and the localization was very well done. It felt like natural dialogue. It felt like it was well delivered. There was many a times that initially I was like, maybe the lip flaps for this game were originally done for Japanese. And then there was like a couple lines later that I'm like, no, those lip flaps are definitely English. They're just done terribly. Like, real bad. Now, there's not very many actual cutscenes where you see someone talking to the point that you can pay attention to them talking. There's like 3 in the early game. And then after that, like, someone's talking to you while they're busy trying to hack you apart. And you're like, well, I don't know if your lips match up anymore. I'm real concerned about the axe that you got. Can you stop? And that could have been, it could be a localization thing. It could have been that this game might have tried to use an early form of the automated lip flaps, because they do have the technology now where you just put the audio in to the game and the engine goes, okay, I can hear what they're saying, and this is how your mouth moves to do that. It's gotten better recently, and it's really good for localization into multiple languages as the technology evolves. But if this was trying to use that earlier on, it wasn't very good yet. It's getting better though, and I don't know if that's what happened here. The rest of the audio design, I mean, you got real gross little splishes and squishes and splats and sploots. Weapon attacks and everything sound fine. The music is only noticeable at a couple of points, which is unfortunate because at those points the music is normally pretty decent, although it can just suddenly decide that it needs to be dramatic even when nothing is happening. But overall, music was fine. 2 out of 2. Story. The story, in like the world, it still exists within the Resident Evil universe. You even see references to the Raccoon City incident. But the story, and I'll try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, very, very beginning, you're playing a guy named Ethan Winters who is trying to find his wife who's been missing for 3 years, and he randomly received an email that disclosed her location to the middle of nowhere in the Louisiana Bayou. And so, all alone, you go to see if you can't find her, and then you find the house, and then you find dead people in the house. And I don't mean like dead people walking around yet. It's just dead people, and he's just like, that's fine. I gotta find my wife. He's like, dude, my guy, holy shit, what year is this supposed to be? Like 2017? Holy God, where's your phone? And he's just like, man, this water's full of dead people and feces. I'll jump in. Like, I got some serious concerns about Ethan Winters' decision-making, all right? Now, like, once he gets locked into the house and he's become part of the family and stuff, and he has to try to escape, like, at that point, it doesn't matter. But it's like the people that are like, oh, man, we just saw our friend run in the door and scream, and they came out, and they were screaming, and they were dragged in by their bloody knuckles. Let's go in to save them. It's like, no, you do not. You do not do that, you stupid horror movie cast members. Stop that. Ethan Winters, you dumb. You big dumb. In terms of like what's happening beyond that, it takes a really long time for them to explain it. And even when they do explain it, it is hairline thin. Hairline thin. Like, there's so little. It's pretty disappointing. And if you weren't reading every single picture, paper, pamphlet, note, email that's just laying around, if you didn't read all those, let me tell you what, you'd have zero idea what's going on. None. Zero. Zip. And there's a room later on that's literally just an exposition room that has like 5 pieces of paper that you need to read that essentially explain the entire game. What started it, why it's happening now, what led to this point, and more. And if you didn't read those, you'd be like, I don't know, I'm gonna go kill a child. I'm not even joking. I'm gonna go kill a child, and then you proceed to go kill a child. That's like, oh, well, I'm glad I took care of that problem. So, yeah, and I can say that the story, while not terrible, it wasn't even entertaining. It wasn't engaging. It was silly, but not like, ha-ha, smile funny silly. Just like, man, this is kind of fucking stupid, kind of silly. It didn't have too many holes in it, so I will give it 1 out of the 2 possible points. But I feel like they could have done so much better. Now, additionally here, one of the reasons we put Resident Evil 7 on the voting list was because a couple weeks ago, from the time of recording, Resident Evil 8 came out. And Resident Evil 8, featuring Lady D, the big wonderful vampire that everyone wants to step on her, that game is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. And so we were like, damn, we need to play Resident Evil 7 so that we don't go in blind to Resident Evil 8, because it's just direct sequel, right? It just carries on the story of Ethan Winters and all the shit that happens. Hey, there ain't no vampires in this, guys. There was nothing. They literally must make up every single possible reason in 8 as to why it's actually a sequel to 7. Because really, seriously, I was looking for something that might insinuate to a bigger picture. They ain't one. Don't exist at all. And there must be something in 8 that explains how it's connected to 7, because no. This felt more like fucking Las Plagas type bug shit than anything, because there was insects everywhere. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. When we get around to playing 8, maybe that'll explain a lot of things. But in a lot of ways, I hope 8's better. And 8, I hope, is better in everything we just talked about and what we're going to talk about next. And that is gameplay. And the gameplay to Resident Evil 8 leaves a lot to be desired. Now, I am so sure that there are people that adore this game's gameplay because it plays like a first-person version of an old Resident Evil game. And it is my belief that that is the intention of Capcom, was let's see if we can make Resident Evil 1, but as a first-person game made with modern equipment. And they succeeded. But let me tell you what, Resident Evil 1 didn't play that well. It played all right for like 1994 when the fucking shit came out. It does not play very well in 2021. I do recognize this game came out in 2017. Don't at me. But still, it don't play very good for even 2017. I think it was 2017. I could be completely wrong. You're more than welcome to correct me. It's rough. It's clunky. Your character feels slow. You feel like you're aiming on rails. The audacity. I know. Yeah, it did not feel great, like, at all in the entire time I was playing it. Except for the Not a Hero DLC, where you play as Chris Redfield and you have guns that actually do damage and you can punch baddies that have been staggered and it does legitimate amounts of damage to them, that actually felt decent. Decent. It didn't feel great, but compared to the 10 hours of game that I played before it, oh boy, did it feel pretty good. It felt a lot better because it felt like my actions mattered more, and the simple ability to punch something that you staggered to, like, remove it opened up the door to making it feel like I had a way to defend myself, because all through the base game of Resident Evil 7, it's just like, okay, take a couple shots, hope that they die. If they don't, turn around, run down the hallway, and shoot them in the head some more until maybe they eventually die. And later in the game, the enemies that used to die in like 3 headshots that still look the same later in the game no longer die in 3 headshots and now need like 10. And I'm like, wow, you've just artificially increased the difficulty of this for no reason at all, with no explanation whatsoever beyond you have more bullets now, therefore it should take more bullets. Felt like crap. The puzzles were fairly simple. I got stuck on one, and that's because I was overthinking it. And it's the birthday puzzle, if you know which one I'm talking about. If not, you're more than welcome to look it up, or you can play it for yourself. Granted, Chris Redfield is a trained soldier, and the other guy is just a guy. That's true. It's very true. But man, it didn't make a difference in terms of how it felt to play. It felt good to play versus like, I guess this works. I'm playing, I guess. The puzzles, otherwise, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Like, they felt fine. Most of them, there was a couple of moments that it felt a little frustrating because it's like, okay, I know what I need to do, but I just can't find the interactable that I need to click on to let me do the next thing. And that sometimes was like, I didn't get to the point where I was like, man, fuck this shit. I was just like, this is... Can I get a hint? Like, this is really the way it felt. And otherwise, like, the exploration was okay. Although, like, one of they give you a hint of, like, where some special loot and treasure is. And one of them was of a toilet. And I was like, all right, guys, let's go check the bathrooms. Fucking house didn't have a bathroom. And I was like, whoa, wait. People live here. Where do they go to the bathroom at? There's no toilets. Check the map. All the rooms are marked. None of them are marked bathroom. I don't know where this loot is. Guess what? We never found it. They always give you just enough ammo. Sometimes you do have a little bit of a surplus, but otherwise, largely, they do give you enough ammo once you do get guns that you can play through the game. Did you see the house they just use as a corner? No, I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. Potentially. The one outside by the trailer, there's a house that you can't get to, even though you can see it. So yeah, I mean, they give you enough resources that you're able to play the game normally. Once you get the guns, they give you enough ammo for the guns. Oh, no, I did not vanish R. I did not see where they just go to the bathroom in the corner. I'm probably glad that I didn't. And I didn't ever really truly feel like I was out of resources as long as I was managing my resources appropriately. And that goes for everything, for healing, for ammunition. I had the ability to craft a decent amount of ammunition. Crafting healing wasn't managing that as well, because you need 2 ingredients for both of those crafts. Herbs for healing, gunpowder for ammo. Found plenty of gunpowder for the ammo. Was not finding the herbs for the healing. Maybe I was just using it, but either way. Ultimately, the gameplay for this comes at 2 out of 4. It wasn't bad. I can't say that it was bad gameplay. But man, if it wasn't middling gameplay, there is nothing that I'm like, man, I really wish X game would do what Resident Evil 7 did. I hope that they take this mechanic and build on it and learn from it. Nothing. I was just like, this works. And that's how it felt, is this works. The one last thing that I'll touch on is the concept of inspecting an item, like picking up, being able to spin it around, and learning something, like finding a piece of paper on the back, information on the back of a piece of paper or something, like a photo, and on the back it gives you something, turning something to find a button to press. That mechanic is good, but it's not utilized in a way that seemed interesting. And what I mean by that is that almost all of the objects that you could interact with were relevant for the purpose of being able to interact with them. There's one room where you have to find a trophy that has a button on it. And there's a whole bunch of trophies. You got to find the right one. And there's some hints around the room to help you figure out which one is the right one. That room, that was cool. That was cool. That was enjoyable. But there's also times when it's like, oh, I can inspect this soccer ball. Yep, it's a soccer ball. Nothing on it. Not relevant whatsoever. And that's not necessarily bad, because they can use that to mislead you in terms of, like, you can examine this. There's no reason to examine it. Move on to the next thing. They do the same thing with, like, drawers that can have loot in them. You can open plenty of drawers. There's nothing in them. Some of them do. But there's not enough of the items that you don't need to examine to make it feel like it wasn't just thrown in terms of, like, the soccer ball or, like, a doll. They don't do anything. But there's literally of, like, we're going to say, like, the 25 items that you need to pick up and spin and look at. I'd say 3 were ones that I didn't have to pick up and look at out of all the ones that I found. And I think we found almost all of them. And that made it feel kind of wasted. It's like, I feel like you could have done more with this. So yeah, 2 out of 4 on the gameplay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. It was serviceable, and that is the most that I can say about it, is that it was serviceable. So that leaves us with 2 points for visuals, 2 points for audio, 1 point for story, and 2 points for gameplay. Makes it 7 out of 10. And I feel like that's where it belongs. I feel like that is a deserving experience. It's not something that I would really recommend to anybody, but I also can't tell people if they were interested in it that they're wasting their time. It definitely has enough quality and polish to it that it's going to be fine if it's something that you're interested in. I mean, when you have a large studio with a decent amount of money making a game, there's this meme about every game doesn't get below a 7 out of 10. And it's like, well, most studios have gotten good enough that the worst game they make will be a 7 out of 10. And that's why it's a big deal if you actually do see a game get a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, because the standard of quality is that, like, entry level is 7 out of 10s. 5 out of 10 games, you don't see them. They either never make it out onto the show floor, or they're like trash indie titles that are like Steam dumpster diving, to where you pick it out and you're like, I guess it runs. But most larger companies, which this is made by Capcom, they've figured out video game design to where even their bad games still rank higher. And that's what we're seeing in Resident Evil 7. I would not call this a good game, but I can't say it's a bad game. And that's why it receives that, what is now a pretty, ultimately a low score of that middling average of like 7 out of 10. And I think that's really where it stands. I really hope that Resident Evil 8 is better. I don't know when we're going to get around to playing it, but I really hope that literally in every way that it is better. But to you watching right now, listening to me ramble about a game that you may agree with me wholeheartedly on, have a and ha about how you feel about it, or you disagree with me and you think the game is either absolute trash or maybe one of the greatest things you've ever played, I would ask you to leave your comments down below and have a conversation with me about what you feel that I wasn't giving enough credit to. I might have been giving too much credit to. I really love conversation and discussion, and especially about video games, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. So if this is something that you're very passionate about, if you feel that it's something that you would like to contribute to, please leave a comment down below, or otherwise, catch up with us on Discord and Twitter. We have channels dedicated to discussions in our Discord server, and you can always hit me up on Twitter. I almost always respond, because I almost always feel starved for conversation. That's why that's why I do this, honestly, in a lot of ways. So please leave your comments down below. Catch up with the Discord and Twitter. As I said, we did play this on stream, and in fact, we're live on stream right now. That's why we have the lovely chat over here. We stream regularly on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Although some of those days we are playing through games, just not all in one sitting, because it's been a long day. We started streaming at 9 a.m. and it is now 10:21 p.m. as we're closing out this video. So yeah, which we do have goals in order to do this again. So we have sub goals to do a full playthrough. We also want to give away a whole bunch of Steam games when we hit a follower goal. So go check out our Twitch channel, and there's links to everything that we just talked about down in the description below. But we're going to close out this video so I can close out this stream so that I can close out this day. So if you do go check out one of the other YouTube videos, or if I see you in the live stream, thank you and enjoy.